All right. Sorry for that. We'll start with the Heart Sutra. I'm just going to open the file, Dropbox. I prostrated the Arya triple gem. Thus did I hear it one time. The Bhagavan was dwelling on a mass of Vajra mountains together with a great community of monks and a great community of Bodhisattvas. What is also in concentration of phenomena called profound perception. Also at that time, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara looked upon the very practice of profound perfection of wisdom and beheld those five aggregates also as empty of inherent nature. Then through the power of the Buddha, the Venerable Shariputra said this to the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara. How should any son of the lineage train who wishes to practice the activity of the profound perfection of wisdom? He said that, and the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara said this to the Venerable Shariputra. Shariputra, any son of the lineage or daughter of the lineage who wishes to practice the activity of the profound perfection of wisdom should look upon like this, correctly and repeatedly beholding those five aggregates also as empty of inherent nature. Form is empty, emptiness is form. Emptiness is not other than form, form is also not other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, discrimination, composition, factors, and consciousness are empty. Shariputra, likewise, all phenomena are emptiness without characteristic, unproduced, unceased, stainless, not without stain, not deficient, not fulfilled. Shariputra, therefore, in emptiness, there is no form, no feeling, no discrimination, no composition of factors, no consciousness. No eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no visual form, no sound, no odor, no taste, no object of touch, and no phenomenon. There is no I element and so on up to including no mind element and no mental consciousness element. There is no ignorance, no extension of ignorance, and so on up to including no aging and death, and no extension of aging and death. Similarly, there is no suffering, origination, cessation, and path. There is no exalted wisdom, no attainment, and also no non-attainment. Shariputra, therefore, because there is no attainment, Bodhisattvas rely on the dwelling perfection of wisdom, the mind without obscuration, without fear. Having completely passed beyond error, to reach the aim point of nirvana. All the Buddhas who dwell in the three times also manifestly completely awakened to unsurpassable, perfect, complete enlightenment in reliance on the perfection of wisdom. Therefore, the mantra of the perfection of wisdom, the mantra of great knowledge, the unsurpassed mantra, the mantra equal to the unequal, the mantra that thoroughly pacifies all suffering should be known as the truth, since it is not false. The mantra of the perfection of wisdom is declared, Tayata gate gate paragate parasamgate bodhisoha. Shariputra, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, should train in the profound perfection of wisdom like that. Then the Bhagavan arose from that concentration and commended the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara, saying, well said, son of the lineage, it is like that, it is like that. One should practice a profound perfection of wisdom, just as you have indicated, even the Tathagatas rejoice. The Bhagavan, having thus spoken, the Venerable Shariputra, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara, and the surrounding in their entirety, along with the worlds of gods, humans, asuras, and Gandharvas, were overjoyed and highly praised that spoken by the Bhagavan. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest assembly. From the accumulations I collect by listening to the teachings, may I attain the state of a Buddha to be able to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest assembly. From the accumulations I collect by listening to the teachings, may I attain the state of a Buddha to be able to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest assembly. From the accumulations that I collect by listening to the teachings, may I attain the state of a Buddha to be able to benefit all sentient beings. Right. So we continue with remedying attachment. I think that today's teaching were, I guess, confronting for some people. We're looking at developing antidotes to attachment. And since attachment is a major affliction that operates in the mind stream, then anything that opposes our afflictions, anything that opposes attachment, and anything that opposes the story that attachment tells us of how it is good to get the objects of attachment, it will make us happy, it will give us pleasure. Anything that opposes that story is confronting, right? So I think that it is likely that some of you react to some of the points like I react to them, kind of Geshe says something or the text says something, and immediately my mind opposes it or comes up with counter argument or saying that, well, it is maybe not exactly like that, or more, maybe not as extreme as that. I think that kind of this bitter resistance is put together by attachment. So we'll continue to do that. We're doing that. We'll continue to put a fight. So one thing that I wanted to begin with now is just to, again, refresh our understanding of the way that Shantideva presents his argument. In Abandoning Erroneous Conceptions, mainly it deals with attachment. It deals with that as the main obstacle for the cultivation of calm abiding. So in Abandoning Erroneous Conceptions, we cultivate weariness for desire. So in order to reflect weariness for desire, in order to cultivate weariness for desire, we mainly isolate the desire that we have towards the body, our body as well as the bodies of others, in either the relationship that we have with close family members, friends, relatives, our partner, husband, wife, children, or what have you. So this is the main type of desire that is discussed in this section. So there are three main points that Shantideva says. First of all, he says that looking at the nature of desire, we are attached to the bodies of others. The first point is look at the nature of the bodies of others from the point of view of what happens to the body when it is discarded in a cemetery or in a channel ground. So by nature, it is unclean, but also the product, the result of that body are unclean, because definitely when we think of a body rotting away, being the split, rent open, the flesh is completely exposed in a cemetery, in a channel ground, the result of the corpse rotting away is definitely not something that is pleasant. The smell is not pleasant, and the sight is not pleasant to behold. So it says that look at what's happening to others when they die. And then it says, actually, you don't have to wait for them to die. Look at what happens when we're still alive. There's so many things that are impure and unclean in the body. And it is all wrapped in this beautiful array of skin and so forth that creates a certain presentation as if there's something that is really alluring and attractive in the body. So Shantideva is kind of just pounding it again and again. The nature of the body is unclean. When you think about the body from different perspectives, from the causes that produce the body, the causes are sperm and ovum, and also you can think of other things that we use to nourish the body. So many of them are not pleasant. Geshe Jamming said before, and I thought I think that that's still something that is good to think of. We said that when we think of the substances that they created, that we used to create the body, like for example, the body of a partner, which we so like to touch and hold and hug and so forth. When you think of the substances that created it, the sperm and ovum of our partner's father and mother, let alone not wanting to touch somebody else's sperm or somebody else's egg or the whole thing, we're not even it's not even something that we would like to see, right? It's not only not something that we would like to see, we don't even want to think about it. So from the point of view of the causes, they're considered to be impure, definitely not inspiring. From the point of view of the nature of the body, what's happening inside in our body, what is happening inside the bodies of others, the 36 unclean substances and so forth, the body is impure, and also from the point of view of the things that come out of the body, blood and pus and urine, excrement, sweat, and so forth. All those things which are products of the body are also unclean. So it says, so Shantideva says, look at what happened when we're alive. This is also unclean. So the first 2 points deal with the body after the body after death, then the body while we're still alive. And then the third main point in the outline is all the unwanted consequences that arise from desire, mainly sexual desire, right? So reflecting on the effects of honing one's desire involves fear, that's the first point. Then reflecting on the unclean nature of the body and so forth. Reflecting on the disadvantages by considering what you find in cemeteries, and reflecting on the aspects of those who are still alive. And then we spoke about the rest, discussing the bodies and things as being unclean. And then Shantideva goes to explain how desire produces all sorts of unwanted consequences. So so the results of attachment is fear and suffering. So today we picked up from verse 62, I believe, in the section that belongs to reflecting on the aspect of those who are still alive. By ascertaining the characteristics of the sexual organs, attachment is seen to be unreasonable. So we started from point D, reflecting on lack of cleanliness of one's own body, reflecting on the body's lack of cleanliness, and one is attached. If one is attached to that, one is ought to be attached to the bodies in a cemetery. So another thing that I wanted to mention with respect to Shantideva's presentation is that of the 4 aspects of true suffering, impermanent, in the nature of suffering, empty and selfless. Of the main things that we look at in relation to the body is the aspect of impermanence, but also misery. There are 4 erroneous engagements with true suffering. We apprehend what is happiness to, sorry, what is suffering to be happiness. So particularly this body is considered to be, is regarded as pervasive suffering of conditionality. So it is the most serious type of suffering. It is not pain, but it is the very foundation for all unwanted experiences in samsara. So we hold on to a pervasive suffering of conditionality to be happiness, actually, in our body, but also when we desire the body of someone else, we desire pervasive suffering of conditionality. So we hold what is suffering to be pleasurable. We also hold what is unclean to be clean. And Shantideva today gave a lot of explanation with respect to the unclean nature of the body. Another erroneous apprehension, 2 of them, another erroneous apprehension is holding what is impermanent to be permanent. That's also is said to be with respect to the body. And then holding what is not an established self to be an established self. So in this point in the text, we're not dealing with that directly, but Shantideva alludes to the selflessness of the body, our own selflessness, but also the selflessness of the body. So
sorry, Yaki.
Yeah.
Could you just go back and repeat that again? There's a lot. There's a bit of like this conditioned. What are you saying? Like it's a bit jargony.
All right. So I'll say it again. So Shantideva in this argumentation is dealing with this body that we regard as pervasive suffering of conditionality. So we have 4 erroneous apprehensions of this body as pervasive suffering of conditionality. While it is suffering, we consider that as pleasurable, as something that is good to have. Not only is something that is good to have, in our life, most of the time or most of the things that we do throughout the day are oriented towards giving this body of suffering a pleasant sensation, as if there's something that is really good and wholesome in the body. So that's the first erroneous apprehension or erroneous engagement with the body.
But
The second
right,
one-
so the first one is thinking that it creates pleasure.
Thinking that it is pleasure in itself. I mean, think of, for example, how when we think of, for example, what is involved with sexual desire, when we have a sexual desire to another person, we have the idea that if we only come in contact with that, it will give us happiness. And sometimes also we say that a happiness actually is within somebody else's body.
Yeah.
Our pleasure is found within that somebody else's body, but somebody else's body is pervasive suffering of conditionality. So we apprehend what is actually suffering to be pleasurable.
So when you're saying pervasive suffering of conditionality, so conditionality is cause and effect. I mean, like, I'm not quite sure what.
All right. So
within
the third suffering, so we speak about the presentation of the three types of suffering. So suffering, suffering of change, and pervasive suffering of conditionality. And when this term conditionality is explained, it says that it conditions us to unpleasant experiences in this life. Just by the virtue of having a body such as this, it is guaranteed that we will experience the suffering of birth, of sickness, of aging, and death. We will look for things and not be able to find them. We will have to be separated again and again from things that cause us pleasure. And we will meet again and again with things that cause us displeasure. Once we have a body such as this, it comes in one package. So in this life, this body conditions us for all these unpleasant experiences. But also it conditions us to the operation of afflictive states of mind. So anger and attachment and jealousy and pride operate in a certain way in relation to the body, and they cause us mental pain in this life. So for example, when this body is being harmed, or when we're being disparaged, when we're being kind of belittled based upon some, let's say, aspects that we have of the body, we experience mental pain in this life. But also because of the afflictions that arise in this life that are based on the body, this one, we are conditioned to experience suffering in future lifetimes. So afflictions arise. We act based upon afflictions, and then we experience again suffering in future life. So this body is called pervasive suffering of conditionality from the viewpoint of conditioning us to suffering in this life, but also suffering in future lifetimes.
Yeah. Thank you. Very good. Thank you for expanding on that. And so the second one then is holding what is permanent to be impermanent. When it comes to our body.
The other way around, what is impermanent to be permanent. So
yes.
Yeah. So we have that. We hold on to the body, not kind of in a rational way, but we have that attitude towards the body as if there is something that is permanent, enduring, lasting, not changing in the body. It's like, we get shocked and amazed sometimes when we look at the mirror, when we find how much we've aged, as if all of a sudden it caught up with us, not being aware of the omnipresent process of change. So we hold on to something. And also, of course, when someone dies, someone that is close to our heart dies, we sometimes find ourselves so amazed and shocked, particularly when they die unexpectedly, which is, of course, distressing. But often we react with a sense of disbelief, as if it is not logical or not reasonable for a body such as this to be harmed, as if there's something permanent about it or stable or enduring about the body. So we hold what is impermanent to actually be permanent. We also hold what is impure to be pure, which is exactly what Shantideva is kind of just drilling here in so many verses, in thinking of the causes of the body, the nature of the body, and the result of the body, the different things that come out of the body, the makeup of the body, and so forth. So while the body has, you can say, probably by and large, a great degree of impurity, we still desire it in thinking that there's something pure about it. I mean, particularly, it's quite interesting. As I said, this teaching can be quite confronting when we think about it from different perspectives. Like, for example, when we think of a newborn baby, how pristine and pure and nice
Perfect.
to smell. No,
Perfect.
yeah, until you have to change nappy. But this also, when you look at books and movies and TV series and so forth, they all portray a certain idea that there's something pure about the body, that there's something clean about the body. Also, when we look at how different products are marketed with people that have nice appearance and beautiful hair and beautiful body, and they spray perfume on the body, there's this idea that there's something pure and nice about the body. So we hold what is impure or unclean to be clean, and we desire it. And then the final one, which is probably the hardest to rid ourselves of, is holding what is not an established self to be an established self, which means that we either hold the body, we can look at it in different ways. We can either hold the body through ignorance to exist inherently as body, to be objectively to exist as body. That's one way of understanding it. Another way is also to hold the body to be an object diffused by an inherently existing person. So there is kind of this controller that is me, the enjoyer, that exists in and of themselves. I exist independently, and that independent self is the owner and the controller of this body. That's another way of understanding holding what is not an established self to be an established self. So that's also related to the body.
So what a tick, I'm a little bit confused there again, Yaki. I'm sorry.
It's all right. You don't have to apologize for confusion.
Is that I would think that one way of viewing the body is as the carrier of the mind. It carries our mind around, and it's our mind that allows us to practice, etc. But that's how does that differ to what you just said there?
Well, the body is indeed a foundation for consciousness. So long as consciousness is in the body, inseparable from the body, for that long we're alive. So with that, I think that there's no qualm with respect to that. I think that this point is not, I think that it's probably not directly related to these 4 erroneous apprehensions. It's just the 4 erroneous apprehensions are just kind of these wrong attitudes that we have with respect to the body, being permanent, being clean, being pleasurable, and also being an established self.
Okay.
Does it make sense?
Being an established self. So in other words, you think you are inherent, it inherently exists. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, the opposite of selflessness.
Yeah, okay. I get it now.
That his body is not selfless, that it is an established self.
Yeah, which is quite different to what I said.
Not that different. Maybe kind of a few words difference, but I think that probably the idea is probably
quite different. Yeah, the idea is quite different. The perspective is different.
All right, so let's quickly go through those verses. So sorry? It says there is no signal. Can you hear me at home? Yeah, I think it's working.
Yes, it's okay.
Okay.
Yes, it's fine.
All right, thank you. So verse 62 says, even attractive things such as camphor, cooked rice and vegetables, make the ground dirty and filthy should they be spat out after being put into the mouth. Actually, it gives me it gives me a little bit of a chuckle when I was thinking about it at home, because I was thinking of my attachment to food, particular types of food, which seems to be so tasty and pleasurable when you see them on display. But if you see kind of this food and someone having already taken a bite out of it, or if you see someone spitting that piece of food, it doesn't look delicious at all. So not only the food does not look delicious, also the body makes it, you could say that by the function of the body, such things become impure. So verses 63 and 64. If one is attached to that, then one ought to be attached to the bodies in a symmetry. I think that that's also quite, this verse is also quite clear. Although such uncleanliness is obvious, if I have doubt, then I should look at the unclean bodies that have been disposed of at the chanting grounds. Although they understand that they will generate great fear of that form which the skin is rent open. In any case, they will again generate joy towards those themselves. So even if we think of the person that we desire, either in daydreaming, or the person that we're in a relationship with, if we think of that person lying dead in a cemetery where the body is completely rent open, and we see the skin and flesh and bones and pus and blood and so forth, still, when that is not happening, desire still happens. Actually, I have a few years ago, I had a conversation with a doctor, and I asked the doctor, I had a family and children and so forth. So I asked him about whether his understanding of the body, but also going into the operation room, operation theater, speaking with people about their urine and excrement and so forth, whether in some senses affects the mind and reduces desire and so forth. And the guy said that actually not at all. It says, so what you do at work, stay with you at work. When you go home, you have like a normal family life. I thought it's pretty interesting as part of, I guess, it also our conditioning to afflictive states of mind, attachment, and so forth. I guess it's the same with anyone that is working in the health profession, right? You could be exposed to quite a lot of gore that is happening on a physical level, but you still go home and leave it aside and then have relationships that are based on desire. Human mind is interesting. Then verses 65 and 66. The sense which anointed the body are sandalwood and the like, not that of others. Why are you attached to others? Because of sense of something else. Since it has a naturally foul odor, isn't it good to be unattached to it? Why do those who crave for meaningless things of the world anoint it with pleasant scents? When I arrived in Australia together with Geshe Jaming, he had a big television at home, and as he started to browse through the channels, he came across Big Brother, and he thought it's hilarious. So every once in a while during the teachings, he used to bring up examples from the Big Brother house, which I thought it was quite entertaining because he had a very refreshing way of looking at this whole phenomenon. But quite a few people were squeamish and cringing about the Geshe here watching Big Brother. But I thought I'd just kind of putting it, Geshe Jaman putting it out there and kind of in a very unapologetic way, like, what's the problem with watching that? You're watching other things on television, so what's the problem with Big Brother? I thought it was quite funny. But anyway, one of the things that he said was you had, I think that at the time when we came to Australia, Big Brother was on television every day, and then there was Friday special, Friday game night, and then they had like I think it's called eviction night.
Yeah.
Someone had to be voted out. So everyone kind of got like totally not caught up, kind of everyone in the Big Brother house kind of got like dressed up and makeup and high heels and like hairdos and so forth. And the weird thing is that kind of you see them on television every day, all day, when they're in the shower, when they're going into the loo, when they're wearing pajamas or tracksuit or what have you. So you know how they look normally, and therefore, like I don't know, an hour, they wear all this makeup and perfume and hairdo and so forth. And the idea is that this is something that is really attractive. So I thought that Sugesh Jaman put it out there and said that it's actually totally ridiculous. Like everyone sees them like that all the time. They don't have to actually pretend that there's something else. They don't have to hide who they are because this is what people see most of the time. So what's the idea of trying to be sexy, so to speak, with hairdo and makeup and so forth, when everyone knows who you are, when everyone has seen you in the shower, when everyone has seen you going into the toilet? What's the point in creating this display? Yeah, so Chugila is saying that it's all kind of, it can all work well until you go home, and then when you go home, kind of you take off all this kind of fancy clothes and hairdo and makeup, and you behave normally, and then you also have to go to the loo and so forth. So all this display anyway falls apart, and this is part of the explanation that this is another point Shantideva makes. He says you don't have to look at others. You understand the nature of your own body. You understand the uncleanliness of your own body. So what's the goal?
I think the dressing up was it gave them something to do. It, you know, an event was coming up, so it was, you know, well, if an event's coming up, we need to get dressed up to, you know, to mark the event, to mark the eviction. I mean, it really is more of a reflection just how frivolous our lives are, how we just waste it on, you know, on looking good, on smelling good, on, because, you know, I think people often get dressed up. It's not always for others. It's so I feel good, you know, like I feel, you know, I've got this outfit on that I really like. It makes me feel good. You know, it's not just about others. It's about the self too. And it really just shows how frivolous our whole life is, how meaningless.
Sometimes I wonder, I'm not contradicting you, but sometimes I wonder about, for example, dressing up for yourself to feel good, or, you know, wearing makeup or other things for yourself to feel good. No, maybe it's for yourself to feel good, but in that sense, it's kind of, it's in order for you to think to yourself that I'm still attractive. Why do we want to be attractive? Because we want other people to like us. So even if you can say that overtly we're not doing it for others, still implicitly we are doing it for others, because we're doing it in thinking that may others like me. May I get the approval of others? May other things that I'm beautiful, may other things that I'm attractive. I'm doing it for myself, but actually, in some sense, I'm also doing it because I want to get the approval of others.
Venerable, oh, sorry, go on.
Because I have low self-esteem.
So don't.
No, I'm not saying, I'm saying I think people do. People do. That's what they do.
Yeah, I think that, you know, we live in an environment. I think that this is why such verses are so confronting, because we live in a society, not just now, but I think that from the dawn of history, or from a certain point, that in which the external became the main thing, whereas the internal is not that important. So this is how we are all set up. This is a setup from day one. So it's hard to shake off this cultural conditioning, social conditioning, to wanting to appear nice, wanting other people to like us, wanting to get the approval of others, wanting others to find us attractive. I find that also, you know, even kind of, even wearing the robes, I want to wear the robes well so that others will not criticize me, or that will not think that I'm not that I don't know how to wear the robes, So this is, I think, a cultural conditioning to seek the approval of others.
Venerable Carsten?
Yes, Michelle.
Yes. Thank you. I think it's very clever of the Lama that you came over with. I forgot his name, sorry, Lama.
Mm.
And he is using technology to be relevant to people of this day and age, because look at all the comments on the chat and how passionate we are about this subject. And those atrocious shows like that are a great example of relevance to this day and age.
Mm.
Yeah, and yeah. I was listening to Venerable Choki as well, and the penny dropped there too with the, so when we take refuge, we're actually, we're asked, we're requested to wear clean clothes and do yourself up as nicely as you can in respect to the ceremony.
Yeah. And
that's not for, if I wasn't told that, I would have just turned up as I normally turn up. But, so that is also a form of respect too, that you have the robes the way you have them, and that we turn up to refuge, looking our best, almost like an offering, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, we want to, we clean up and we wear clean and nice clothes in order to help the mind also to develop a pure state of mind. But, it's not to say that when we wash up and wear nice clothes, when we take refuge, we also think that the nature of the body is clean. Hmm. 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 Well, yeah, kind of, if you wear the robes here and they look kind of dirty and old and tattered and so forth, yeah, could look, others might find those who wear the robes to be a little bit awkward. So there are a couple of points I wanted to pull out. So let's look at verse 68. First of all, we spoke about thus arrest this grasping of at the body and things as being clean. We spoke of contrived ornaments cannot make the body clean, in that wearing perfumes, nice clothes, having a really beautiful hairdo, makeup and so forth, they do not make the nature of the body become clean. So in some sense, Shantideva is saying, why do you crave for those meaningless things? And also, why do you if you say that I really like someone that puts a lot of effort into the personal experience, because then they look really beautiful and I desire something that looks beautiful. Shantideva says that actually those things that we use in order to adorn the body, perfume and so forth, are unrelated to the body. So you desire somebody else's body, but if you get it without the perfume, clothing and so forth, you're probably not going to have the same reaction. So you're craving something that is unrelated actually to the body. So then in verse 68, that comes under the heading of the body does not pass beyond its perishable nature. There's an opinion that one might express. So you might say that, yeah, but actually when the body is washed, when it is brushed, the hair is brushed, when I wear clothing and so forth, the body becomes so beautiful. And because it becomes so beautiful and attractive, this is what I desire. So in verse 68, it says, if the naked body in its natural state is very frightening due to long hair and nails and yellowish foul-smelling teeth being coated with the odor of dirt, why do you clean it with effort, like cleaning a weapon that will cause me harm? So Shantideva here is saying that if you leave the body in its natural state, if you don't put effort into cleaning it, brushing it, trimming your nails and so forth, the body will become something that is unpleasant to see. So when we think again about desiring a body, you desire something that by nature will fall apart, that by nature become unpleasant. Not only that, Shantideva also says that you're desiring something that by nature will kill you. It's like cleaning the body, taking care of the body in that sense to make it look beautiful. It's like cleaning a weapon that will be used to kill you. So once we are born in a body such as this, it is guaranteed that it will die. Once we become attached to the body of another person, we also become attached to something that is guaranteed that we will die. So in that sense, Shantideva is saying that when at least we think of our body, we wash it, we trim the hair, the nails, and so forth. Of course, we need to do those things, but with a sense of attachment, it's just like cleaning the weapon that at the end will cause our death. So that continues with just going to look at Khenpo Kunten. I made a note that he. So, all right. So Khenpo Kunten says in his commentary in page 275. Moreover, why do such excessive trouble to clean and groom the body, the object of our attachment? It is like cleaning and polishing the very weapon, sword or whatever else, with which we are able to be wounded. Clinging in ignorance to their bodies, identifying something that is without the self as I and mine, and taking as pure something that is impure, people lavish care upon themselves, bathing and preening. So in Khenpo Kunpen's commentary, it refers to this erroneous apprehension or attitude that we have towards the body. We hold on to the body as I and mine with an erroneous sense of self, but it lacks that sense of self. We hold on to what is unclean to be clean. And it says, we're taking it as pure and as something, we're taking as pure something that is impure. And then it says, as they drink down the intoxicating waters of desire, the minds are driven wild. The entire surface of the earth is engulfed in madness. Beings are indeed pitiful. The earth is filled with those who strive excessively for their own ends, taking care of those they love, combating those they hate, doing the utmost to secure wealth and renown. When the Bodhisattvas, offsprings of the conquerors, behold them high or low, powerful or weak, or just ordinary people behaving as though they were completely insane, their hearts are filled with sorrow and they weep with compassion. It is like when, all right, so there is here an analogy that Khenpo Kunpen gives. Anyway, so that's verse 69. Then in verse 70, it says that actually, when you look at the people around you and you think of the makeup of their body, you can think of them as just skeletons or sacks of, you can also say sacks of flesh and blood walking around. So when you go beneath the skins and just think about them as walking skeletons, like in the Walking Dead, it's not that enticing to see. So it says, when my mind is despondent in the chanted grounds through having beheld nothing but skeletons, will there be any joy in the chanted grounds, which are cities filled with moving skeletons, right? So this is also, I think, that another useful exercise, mental exercise that we can, sounds like we are all zombies. Yeah, well, I think that this is also another interesting exercise to do in terms of thinking of attachment, or our idea or notion of the body, which we find to be so attractive. So when you start to think of others around you as walking skeletons, when you start to think about them without the skin. Geshe Jamang also used to say that when you think of the object of your desire, someone that you really like and you're passionate about, entering into a relationship with that person. What about, for example, Geshe-la said, what about, for example, you think about him as, or you think about the face, but missing the nose, or part of the nose is completely cut off. Are you going to find the person attractive, or will there be something fearful about it? Will you flinch? If you think about, for example, if you think about the beautiful face of another person, think about, for example, the flesh, the skin being flayed. Will you find the face of that person to be as attractive? So when we think of what's found beneath the skins, if we start to imagine it with respect to the people around us, indeed, there would be nothing that is that enticing. So looking at my X-ray, Eva says she thinks that she is a zombie. Yeah.
Or a bag of bones.
The Walking Dead. Yeah. Dechen?
A bag of bones, that she's like skeletons walking around.
Yeah.
Yeah, I find these sorts of exercises, ways of thinking about the body useful, because it really does. We waste so much time on, thinking that other people are attractive, on making ourselves attractive, and all of that sort of stuff. And it's just so superficial. I really find I've been really enjoying this part. Seeing ourselves all as skeletons walking around, or our flatulence. Nobody's mentioned flatulence yet. I mean, we all stink.
Yeah.
We all totally stink.
Yeah, the things that come out of the body.
Yeah. Disgusting.
Yeah. Venerable Carsten.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if this is in line with the sutra. But when Geshe-la has said it, and Venerable Choki, when a lama passes away, there's a sweet smell, and that's that, isn't it? That's because of the input that goes into the lama, as in cleansing water and herbs and no intoxicants, and so after years and several decades of that type of lifestyle, and I'm not sure if that's in Tantra, I have no idea, but that pure lifestyle, so that you're cleansing your body to the human body that you've been given to the greatest way that you can.
Sometimes they say that, as far as I remember, I had before that, also through cultivating ethical discipline. All right, so that's what you were talking about. All right, so through ethical discipline, that's what happens. So I think that from a sutra perspective, indeed, as you discussed, this is a common explanation. I think that probably also you can link it up in certain ways from a tantric perspective. Not sure how. Probably I have to think about it.
Okay.
So then when we begin with the section that explains how attachment involves unwanted things from verse 71 and after, then the extensive explanation mentions 2 points: not obtaining what you desire, and also it is connected to the fault of numerous unwanted consequences. And I think that here, I think that's something that really challenges our understanding of society, not understanding of society, but just the way that we think of relationships in society. I think that we still live in a society, most societies believe that the way to become happy, to have a meaningful life, to accomplish the greatest goals in your life is only possible if you have a family. This is not to say that you cannot find happiness in family. Obviously, many people do that. But the idea is that only if you have that, you can be happy. It's something that is so strong in most societies. I remember that a few years ago, I was having a conversation with a guy at the swimming pool. And he was telling me with kind of a smile on his face and also with kind of this great pride that his daughter, that was 21 years old, had just put her first deposit on a house. And she took like 300,000 or maybe 200,000 mortgage for a first house. And I was like, oh my God, it's like she owns so much money and you're happy about it. So society sets it up to those ideas of only if you have those things, it will make you happy. And then we become proud of those things making us happy. So what Shantideva is saying here is quite confronting, right? In saying that actually it runs you down. You become really fatigued. It creates, I think, sometimes a lot of opposition, but maybe if we keep the mind open to thinking of Shantideva's argumentation and start to maybe think of different situations, maybe less, I guess, resistance will arise in our mind if you find resistance in your mind to those things. So I think that what Shantideva is saying here is that relationship come with a price tag. They come with a price in that in different situations, you run yourself to exhaustion, and you also accumulate negativities on account of that. So it begins with saying, in this way, the unclean is not found without paying a price. Through accomplishing the purpose, I exhaust myself and will be harmed in the health and the like. In that, now, if you live a life where you have a family, kids, household, and so forth, then you have to do so many things. You have to go to work, to support your family. You need to do a lot of work inside the household and outside, and you really sometimes run yourself to exhaustion. And on the way, we also accumulate negativities. It's hard to avoid negative states of mind. It's hard to avoid negativities that are promoted or controlled by negative states of mind. And the result of them, Shantideva says, would be future suffering. So why do we do that? Well, we do that because we still think that that will make us happy. I mean, I think that also it's interesting sometimes speaking also with those that left monasticism and again got into a relationship and so forth, and thinking that that will make them happy. From people that I've spoke with in the past, many of them actually at the end acknowledged that when they left monasticism, being a monk or a nun, and again got into relationship, again, they remember the benefits of being ordained. Of course, it's not that everything is good about being ordained or that everything is that you happily ever after live as an ordained person will still have a mind to contend with. But even if we hear a lot about how we're chase for happiness in others, in relationship and so forth, and how at the end it brings about also quite a lot of suffering, we still believe that it is possible to find a situation where you will not experience suffering and there will be only happiness for you. Yeah. Yeah, so Chugala is saying that whether you're ordained or whether you're a monastic, there's a tendency or compulsion to think that happiness is still something that is out there. So rather than thinking that actually, if I want to be happier and healthier, to be better, then I need to deal with my mind. We still, whether we are monastics or not, we try to chase happiness outside. Yeah, indeed. So our system, the social system that we live in is totally set up to make us believe that happiness is out there. So we deliberately need to find it, to fight against that notion that happiness is found out there in possession, relationship, the body, and so forth. Then verses 73, 4, 5, 6, Shantideva explains, or he speaks about the way that we work so hard in order to bring about happiness. We run ourselves completely tired. So he says, a child is unable to increase his wealth. So with what can he be happy when he is in the prime of life? When life is spent due to accumulating wealth and the like, having aged, what use will sex be or desire be? So we go through difficulties in amassing money or possessions. We go through difficulties in protecting the money or possessions that we have. At the end, we become unhappiness when the things that we have worked so hard to accomplish are destroyed, either relationship, possessions, money, house, or what have you. So in all those things, we experience problems, and we also wear ourselves out in so doing. There's this reference here in the text also to sometimes people having to travel far away from the families in order to do that. It's very common still in developing countries. When I was living in India, it was quite common for Tibetans to get visas, mostly illegally, travel to the US or Europe, leave their family behind. Sometimes both parents used to leave the kids in India in TCV, the boarding school, in thinking that if only I go overseas and make money, that will make my child happy, or that will make me happy. So I had someone that was coming to clean my room when I was living in India. She did it twice a month, and she had 2 kids in the TCV. And one day she came and she said, "That's my last day at work. Tomorrow I'm going to Delhi, and then I'm going to Belgium." And it's like, and I was like, "What are you doing?" And she said that she got kind of one of those visas in that illegal scheme, and she's going to Belgium. And I said, "But what about your kids?" And she said, "Oh yeah, they're at school. You know, they're at the TCV. If I go overseas and make money, they'll have a better future." So it's quite common in places like India. It's also, I just read an article this weekend about also it being very popular in China and Tibet. I've met a few families like that where parents stay away for the duration of the year. Sometimes one parent, sometimes both parents. They live, of course, they don't leave the kids completely untended. They leave them with family members and so forth. But still, sometimes when they come back, the children don't recognize them, or they don't have ways to relate to them. So this whole family structure is broken down. And again, that's for the sake of money, right? Anyway, we're out of time. Thank you very much, people.
Thank you.
Thank you. Being fun. Due to this virtue, might quickly become a Guru Buddha and lead all transmigratory beings without exception to that state. May this precious Supreme Bodhicitta not yet born arise. May that arisen not decline, but increase more and more. In this land encircled by snowy mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good. All-powerful Chinbrezig Tenzin Gyatso, please remain until samsara ends. You uphold the Sabura's moral way, who serves in the bountiful bearer of all, sustaining, preserving, and spreading Majuna's victorious doctrine. O Master, for the accomplishes magnificent prayers honoring the 3 jewels, protector of myself and others, your disciples, please live long. Thank you.
Thank you.